Guys, welcome to the Scream Stream interview with Matthew of the Psycho Goreman from Psycho Goreman, or you can call him PG. He is the man behind the mask, literally. I guess the whole body prosthetic, right? You were
Yeah.
basically poured into that thing. So, how does this project happen? Because you start out, you're a director. Is this like your first like real
No.
not being behind the camera, or what? What's the deal with that?
Oh, so I'm more of a, I would just call myself filmmaker. Story. I just like being on movie sets. So whatever I can do. So I've pulled lights, cables, right, set up lights. I've ran the camera. I'll do sound. Like my whole thing is I'm just obsessed with the movie experience. So I've been acting for a couple years, and whatever I can do to get just on a movie set, whatever the avenue is that's the what I'm going to take. So
Just getting your foot in the door. I mean, this is a hell of a project to get, though. I mean, this is a really well done, like, independent style movie with some real. I mean, it's just the practical. I think what really captured me, and I think this is why Patrick was like so excited about too, is the use of the practical effects was
yeah,
so nice, because it's just so easy to fall in that trope of just do everything CG, and it just looks hokey. It doesn't hold up. But like this movie really, really, really had a lot of real FX in it. And I think that's what helped send it over the edge. It was
yeah,
campy, it was dark, it was funny, it had a lot of gore in it, but it was just like that right mix. Like you had like the Dragon Ball Z, like, throwing electricity across the room, but then people's heads exploded and it was like real fake blood.
yeah,
So it was
yeah.
just a little bit of everything. Like, so being in the way that they decided to make this, where you don't really have a speaking role, you're just PG, and how do you shoot for that? How does that dynamic change on the set for you?
Yeah. So not having a speaking role. So obviously did have a speaking role because the mouth is moving of
Yeah,
PG. The hardest part of doing that is making sure that you are doing the dialogue in a way that they're going to be able to VO afterwards. So if you watch the movie, just being very precise. And for most people, they don't even know that PG's VO'd until you get to the end credits. You're like, oh, it's two separate people. So that was just mapping out the performance, hitting those words like Gygax and
yeah.
the like making sure that you hit all these nonsensical words correctly so that when they go back they can align and match everything. So that was a bit of a adventure to make sure that worked out. But no, it was good. It was a good time.
I feel like that probably makes it's almost even harder for you, because you basically had to do two roles, even though one of them's not truly going to be used in the end, right? Like you're having to both block and be on the set. You're in the scene, and then you're also having to use those lines so they can map after the fact. I mean, that's a
It's
lot. I mean,
and
you had to
then
study both roles. So
yeah,
I mean,
and having the teeth in and having all this stuff glued to your face, it's something else. So, and there was really no place to map or mic PG, so
yeah.
everyone else is wearing lapels, but PG for the most part, other than when he is wearing his outfits, is naked, I guess. So, yeah,
His outfits were pretty. They blended in really well. I mean,
yeah,
he didn't
yeah,
stick out at all. That's like my favorite part about those scenes was it just felt like that was like it almost reminded me of like oh, what's that movie, the Disney movie Under Wraps, when they dress the mummy up. It's kind of what
oh
it
yeah,
felt
yeah,
like.
yeah,
It's like
yeah, yeah,
obviously still a monster.
yeah,
Just put some sunglasses on. It's Weekend at Bernie's. He's okay.
yeah.
He's alive. But so I guess, yeah, your roots, you're a big action guy. Like that's what your previous projects have kind of been, like a thriller. Like
Yeah, I
you're
like
kind
to
of in
jump
that
around.
vein.
So my first movie was just it was actually a family film, and then I went into making an action film, and then I went into like a superhero thriller, and then going back to an action movie. And really, for me, it's just you have your taste of what you really like, and then it's about closing the gap and just learning how to make a movie. Which I loved being on PG just to see how they were setting up scenes, how they're lighting things. It was a learning experience for me, and it's cheaper than going to film school. So
Yeah.
just go in and act in a movie to learn. And Steven was great, and the whole crew was so awesome just to learn from, and picked up a lot of tricks from the guys. And that's what I love about being on a movie set, is you just learn so much. And you're going to school, and I'm not a school guy, so I like to, it's a hands-on experience for me. So yeah, I don't think I answered your question at all. I just went
no. That's. I mean, I think that's the most important thing to take away from like this industry in general. I mean, obviously you've accomplished much on a much higher scale than Patrick and I ever have at this point. You've had this. PG is a great movie. We've never done a feature-length film that we've released that we thought was worth a damn. But we've always been involved. Like, I do think like there is value in an education and formal training, but yeah, there's no substitute for the experience. And I think that's such a great point you make. It's just like getting in there and doing it. Yeah, is so valuable, and the networking and being involved with creative people that are geniuses in what they do, like every single aspect from gaffing up to
than you.
Like gaffing up to FX. I mean, you can order something.
Being on set with Steve, like there's so many times I'm like, I'm so interested to see how this is going to show up, because his world that was inside of his head it's so absurd. Like when you first read that script and you're like, what did I just read?
I can't even imagine what that looked like.
Because again, when I got the audition, it was just that is that fear I smell? Like it's just that line at the beginning with the warehouse, and you're like, oh, this is a horror movie. Okay, with this like very huge theatrical beast, and then all of a sudden you get the full script and you're like, oh my. This is a weird world. Like reading about the council and Pandora and like these montage scenes, and you're like, what is this? So I really enjoyed Steven had such a clear vision, and it was so out there. And then to be part of the process of hearing him talk about it, see the choices that he made, and then see the final product was really great for me. Really great. And I love that. That was so good. So,
yeah, I think that was another thing that was really striking. I think what sets this apart from a lot of other projects in this vein, this tier of filmmaking, these like independent films that have some money behind them.
Yeah.
That feeling where you all had a proper budget and you were able to do a lot more than most can accomplish, but you did it efficiently. You did it great. Like it wasn't too hokey. And
yeah. There was a lot of sweat that went into this.
Yeah,
film.
I mean, you could tell.
Called a lot of favors, and the producers were learning how to do practical effects, like coming into the shop to help out. So there was a lot of people that, if you had to make that movie, you wouldn't have the budget to. And that's one of the things I love about independent cinema is you have to find creative ways to do it. You have to leverage things, and you have to think. You can't just throw money. Money's not the solution. So you have to think differently. And there's some creative choices that really worked out just because they didn't have money to do it the way they wanted. And I actually think it was better. So
I think it teaches you, like, once you get a budget, you know how to use it properly. If you've trained yourself on this stuff,
I don't even know what I would do with $10 million. If someone gave me $10 million to make a movie, I'm like, I have no idea how it's spent.
Some of these film budgets are like ridiculous. Like, I can do that for $1,000.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's, I think that was, it struck out, was how well developed and how like lived in this background of PG was. Like, all the cutaways, and he was having those like flashback montages that kept getting interrupted.
Yeah.
They had the smoke blow in, and it was like, hey,
so
this is awesome. Like, he really built a world that you feel like you're being dropped in, like the, episode 4. It's the New Hope, and there was 3 movies worth of stuff before this ever happened.
You just skim through it. There's actually a funny one. The first day on set, PG was actually supposed to have smoke coming out of his eyes all the time, and they were rigging this thing up. I'm so glad we didn't do it, because I'm like, man, this sounds horrible.
You'd be wearing glasses to this thing.
Yeah. So, but there was more things that they wanted to do, and the sad thing is that they just had to make really hard decisions. They're like, all right, this is what we are going to do versus what we were dreaming about. So I'm really excited if they get to do round 2. There's a lot of ideas that we weren't allowed to do because of financing or time or just logistics that if we could come back to for PG would be really, really exciting.
I would love to see more of a PG universe. It was definitely badass. And I guess you've kind of hit on it. Like, you know, it really does seem like it was a passion project from the top down, and like everybody, it just seems like you all had so much fun like working on this. Like, I think that really carries through on the finished product. But you know, and you kind of touched on some other interviews that I've seen, was, you know, just how great it was to interact with the younger actors. Like, and it was,
yeah, they were great.
They were awesome. Like,
Yeah.
first role, and I mean, basically being the lead along with you as the bad guy / anti-hero.
Oh, no, they're the monsters. I'm not the monster.
Yeah, so it's just like, it's great. I mean, like, it was like, it really took a dark turn when she starts like beating the crap out of her brother. Like, oh man,
yeah,
I don't think PG is gonna be the bad guy in this movie.
No. That's funny.
Just like
yeah,
just wild. So I guess where that brings me to is, I'm trying to find a segue to it. Like, I kind of touched on it earlier. Like, how much do you appreciate as a director and being an actor in this particular project, like the use of the practical FX? Like, how does that has that changed anything that you think about in your next directorial projects? Like,
yeah, I think,
like, your biggest takeaways from this project.
My biggest takeaway is just, I'm just going to stay away from visual effects personally. That's just been, it never ages well in an independent movie. I haven't seen much independent movies.
What are you talking about, man? The Scorpion King is
exactly.
timeless.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you can't go back and watch that. And I think of movies like Braveheart where they just did everything. Like, there's one scene in Braveheart that stands out. I don't know if you're a fan of the film, but Mel Gibson's character jumps out of the castle and you see a dummy horse just hit the water. I don't know. Like, that's the only like part of that movie that's cringeworthy, but that movie could come out today and you're like, oh, this is pretty good. Like, it just stands the test of time. And you said Scorpion King, like, what a joke. Like, that movie was so bad, and I'm so glad bringing it back to PG that they did practical effects. And I don't know how we would have, like, how would you have interacted with Brain Alistair if he was just like, I think that's what I really enjoyed about this project, that you didn't really have to imagine any of the characters. Yeah. They're just right there. And the hardest part was maybe like the montage, like they're like, hey, I want you to be like Lobo riding an intergalactic motorcycle. I'm like, okay. But yeah, practical is so much fun, especially in independent cinema. You just get a better interaction. It's funner for everybody. And I think we're really spoiled because, like, you look at how many creatures that came out on PG, and whether it's the council or whether it was the fight scene in the forest, like, there was just so much love and care into all these characters that were made, and
they were basically throwaway characters.
Yeah,
like, you know, it's like, they had these great character designs. Like, the one dude was like a barrel full of body parts. And he's
yeah.
Like, what's this dude's story? Like,
exactly, and
after you get permission to beat the shit out of him.
Yeah. Give me the go ahead.
Great, like, the amount of care that went into characters that had, you know, less than 2 minutes of screen time. Like,
and I think that's the big difference for me that I really appreciated is there's just all the care. There's like, it's not like, hey, we're gonna figure out what this looks like and someone's wearing emotion. And you know what? That stuff's great. It's just at the budget that we're working with, we just can't do that as independent filmmakers. So just reminder, take the time, build your thing, fall in love with it. The love and care that goes into creating a creature. I think that's the one thing that I really appreciated watching Steve and his team just put these guys together. And, like, you know, in between takes, people are like putting hair in the next creature, and like they had a small team and they were wearing a lot of hats, and it was hustle. And it was like, yeah, there was a budget, but really it was a passion project where Steven just brought a lot of the friends that he's made over the years and said, hey, let's hang out, let's make a movie. And I think that dynamic really shows up because it's not just people just doing a job. It's actually everyone really cared about him as a director and his vision and just making it happen. So
And it makes a project that everybody's proud of. Like you all can, that's a feather in everybody's cap, you know.
Yeah.
When you have something this good, like this is a great showpiece. This is a gem. Like it's a very.
Good to hear. Yeah.
I'm excited to see it get traction because we're one of the early people. I was like, Patrick Gibson. I was like, you gotta watch this. You gotta watch this, man. We gotta get Matt on. We gotta get Steven on if we can get a hold of him. And we need to do like a watch party for this and like start promoting it. 'Cause we love the independent horror. We're huge fans of dark comedies. Like that's like my favorite genre, subgenre of it. So like campy stuff, but like practical effects. It's just got it all. It's got the sci-fi twist, huge sci-fi nut. So just a little bit of everything. I guess really, like I said, I hate rehashing questions. Like,
dude, that's all good. No.
So, the other thing that we were kind of wondering, usually what I ask is like, what was your all's production timeline on this? Like how when you finally got cast? Like
I'm so bad with anything involving like I know we had like I think it was like 3 or 2 years ago. There was a block. It's 2 years ago. There was a block of shooting that was like over the winter time, and that's when I first got into the suit. And we did all the montage stuff. We did the opening warehouse scene, and we're just kind of creating the sizzle of the film. And I didn't get to meet many characters. It was just, hey, let's just get this going and let's get stuff together and then I don't know if they're raising financing, but there was a block of shooting that we just got a lot of beautiful stuff. And then we came back like in the summertime, like 4 or 5 months later. And
so you all got this done pre-COVID.
Yeah, no. So they started post-production, like they were really deep into post-production when COVID hit. And I think the hard thing is that they were trying to hit the festival circuit, which just
imploded
in front of them. And I think there's a little bit of like, again, as the actor, I don't know all the inner workings of what was going on, but I do know that some of the producers were just like, I don't really know what we're supposed to do with this film right now, because the whole idea is that the audience would be the champion of a film like this, and
that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
get it out there.
And it's really made for a certain group of people, and I think either you love PG or you're like, what I just watched? Like I'm so lost, and I don't think there's an in between. It's like either you really get what's going on or you're just so like what, and I think that's actually fun. I think that's great, and it's a good exposure to people. Like even for me, I didn't even know about this whole like ecosystem of movies that Steven was talking about. I'm like, wow, like I was more mainstream. Like again, like Braveheart's probably my favorite movie. Gladiator,
those are great movies.
They're great movies, but like I got to just go into like Thundercats. I'm like, oh yeah. I didn't even know about like I watched like DuckTales growing up. I didn't watch Thundercats. So it was like there's all this whole vein that I just missed out on, that now as an adult I'm like, oh, this is actually really fun. And like I think it's a great segue for some people who will get to watch PG, who don't know about all these references and open up a whole world to them. And obviously people who've grown up with the same influences as Steven, they'll get a lot of the gags that he's doing, the throwbacks that he's doing, and for other people it's just going to be a completely new experience, which still makes it a great movie.
It is. I mean, it's very approachable. I mean, I know you all are Canada based, and so but I thought it was funny how there's some lines back and forth in the movie where they'll say something that's kind of more of an American way to say it versus a Canadian way to say it. Like they reference the police a couple times in the traditional American sense, and then they call it like the they use your all's word for it. They'd say y'all's word for it. But it's really funny how it has like a blended, just a North American culture, like a micro. You don't really have a good feel for where the movie takes place, other than it's pseudo Canada, because you see, what the hell is it called? Like they call it police. We would call it. It's usually called a police station down here, but you all have a weird vernacular for it. Damn, I can't think of what it was called. When they have the shot of the police station and it's just like a sign. It's a weird way to say it. We don't usually say
I would call it a police headquarters.
Something like that. Yeah, it's just like it's more formal, you know.
Station's probably what I would say.
It's like, but it's funny. It's like it's got
Here's the
this little
thing: as a Canadian, I don't know the things I do. I'm just like,
well,
oh yeah,
that's but it's like things you don't notice unless you're looking from the outside. You're like, oh, that's a little weird. I wouldn't see that sign here normally, but then you know the dad's talking about having a BA in English, and you know, it's like stuff like that. Like that's more of like the American styling of a degree instead of more proper English Commonwealth degree system. You know, you all have more flair than we get. We're just garbage people. But
I'm not saying any of that.
I will apologize. We're just who we are. But it's just I love. It really. There's another like there seems to be this little renaissance in like the Canadian independent film scene. Like you have like Summer of '84. Is like a very Canadian, but it's like it's a great dark horror, a little bit of a dark comedy, but it's a little bit darker because kids get killed. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. It's dark, but and like the other movie that I thought this really reminded me of. Have you ever seen Turbo Kid? I
did see Turbo Kid, yeah.
So this really reminded me a lot of Turbo Kid, which is also a lot of practical effects, very campy, dark sci-fi. And so, like, I think that's why we loved it so much. We're huge Turbo Kid fans. Like, and
Turbo Kid did really well, yeah.
So I would love to see this get the traction because, like, I mean, it deserves it. It's a great. You all built an awesome world, and it feels like you all enjoy doing it. And I would certainly love to see more of it, and we will do all we can to make people watch it so we get more funding to do stuff. But I mean, hell, it just looks like it was a lot of fun. And I guess to wrap it up here, what are your future projects you're working on? I've heard you mention this Death Valley project. Have you made any more progress on it since the last talk?
So Death Valley has been my COVID whatever, trying to redeem 2020. So it's me just closing that gap, trying to make a fun little action flick. It's looking great. It's been a blast. Right now in Canada, we have lockdowns, and the only way that you can actually hang out with people is if you're essential, and filmmaking is essential. So it's basically
the arts are essential.
It's
you all have culture.
Yeah.
They don't believe that down here.
It's my social life, so you have to go through some crazy rigmarole just to be able to do it. But yeah, we've been filming it on weekends, and we're over 70% of the way done, and it's been great. Like, honestly, to have a project right now, I was like, I need this. It's made this whole quarantine world bearable for myself, and I can't imagine people who aren't able to practice what they're passionate about or being locked inside. So for me, Death Valley was, hey, we can't do anything. Let's take the money that I had in my company and let's just go. Let's go make something. So we wrote a script, and I talked to Steven. I'm like, can you make me a monster? He's like, I'll make you a monster. Thanks for PG. So he built me a really cool monster. So it's like a kind of like a buddy cop action film meets Alien. And it's been a blast. So basically throughout the week we build the sets, we practice the scene, and on the weekends we film it and then edit it together and do it again, and hopefully we'll be done by July and have another movie, and after that go on to PG sequel
again. So we're definitely, like I said, I love, because like I said, you said Steven's helped you build a monster for it, so it's like I like how that synergy is just carrying over into the next project. So I mean, it's nothing but good vibes. So
and that's the one thing that I super appreciated, is just like I met so many people on PG. I'm like, wow, now I know all my practical effects people, because like they had everybody there, and you just kind of take the best and keep creating, and that's the beauty of it.